What's a really awkward situation that everyone can relate with? Someone trying to initiate a handshake after you've just washed your hands. It's either a few awkward seconds of quickly drying your hands on your jeans or shaking their hand anyway and seeing the discomfort in their eyes. Saying hello or how are you to somebody and getting 100% ignored. Worse when someone else you know is there too and notices you getting ignored. That's when I just say good talk. Helps me feel like I save face just a bit. Someone showing everyone in the group something on their phone and waiting until it is your turn. Even worse if it never makes it to you and you have to pretend you're not secretly dying to know what it is. Having your stomach rumble in the middle of a quiet class/meeting. Edit. Both in college and at store meetings, my go-to cover-up strategy was to furiously flip through pages of notes to try and drown it out. When I feel anxious, my stomach rumbles uncontrollably, several times per minute, even. This started to be a problem in school because it would rumble constantly throughout exams and was super embarrassing. But soon enough, anytime I was in a quiet public situation, I'd be dreading my stomach rumbling, and that anxiety would cause it to rumble. This went on for probably around 5 years, and it was hell for me. I used to try so many techniques to suppress the rumbles. Eventually, I figured out it was anxiety related, and that I was unknowingly causing my own stomach to rumble uncontrollably by making myself anxious about it rumbling. Since then, it's been a lot easier to manage. I just focus on my breathing and try to break the cycle by not thinking about it. Not being able to pick up when someone else is completely disinterested in what you are talking about. Ever drag your shoe across a tile floor and have it make a loud, wet, fart sound so everyone in the room looks at you? Then you insist it was your shoe and try to make the sound again, but nothing happens? Yeah, that. When you've had multiple interactions with someone, but you can't remember their name, but it's gone too far to admit you've forgotten it, so you just have to call them love or mate forever. I met this guy in my math class at the beginning of the semester and I never caught his name. We became friends and now it's the end of the semester, and I still don't know his name, not sure how to ask. Edit. Well, I now have been given about 150 ways to get their name without directly asking. Thanks for the help, and please quit destroying my inbox. Being at a friend's house as a kid and the friend's mother starts yelling at your friend. Being at a friend's house as a kid and the friend's father walks in only wearing underwear. Watching a sex scene with your parents. Visited my aunt and uncle 7 years ago, and we were hanging out watching TV. My uncle clicks through channels and stops on Herald and Humor Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Within minutes it's the shaved pussy party scene. My aunt and uncle sit there in silence watching, not saying anything until the scene is over while I sweat bullets. If you put an acorn between my butt cheeks I could have cracked it. A few months ago I visit again. Uncle flips through channels. It's Starship Troopers. Within minutes it's a sex scene and the boobies are out. I'm not visiting anymore. When you're finishing up at the checkout and the cashier puts the notes on top of the receipt and then coins on top of that. Then the next person steps up and you're fumbling, trying to disassemble the stack in your hand, gather your shopping, say thanks and move away at the same time. When I was a cashier I made it a point to hand them their coin, hand them their currency, and unless requested otherwise, I would put the receipt in the bag for this very reason. When you are video chatting, start talking and, because of the delay you interrupt each other all the time. Stop talking, start again, interrupt the other one, stop talking. Never ending story. When you reply to a stranger who says hello, but then realize they were on the phone and not speaking to you. Happened to me just yesterday, and I didn't get any sleep last night as I couldn't stop reliving the moment. When you say a funny joke but all you get is silence. I told a complete long story to a big group of near strangers and received complete silence. I still cringe about that. It was a pretty good lesson. A new group of people are not your old group of friends. They don't know you, and you don't know their humor yet. When you're saying goodbye to someone, and then you both end up walking in the same direction. Or when you turn and walk into a wall with people watching. Edit. My first awards ever. So glad my forms of awkwardness resonate with others. Also when you realize you've forgotten something and need to turn around, but you don't want to just turn around abruptly because that would make you look insane. So you do a little performance where you get your phone out, pretend to check a message, sort of mime aha, and then turn around. Or cross the street and then turn around to throw any observers off the scent. When you're having a conversation with someone and you don't hear what they say, so you ask them to repeat and they do. But you still don't hear it, and ask them to repeat again and they do. And you still don't know what they said. Do you ask them to repeat again, and maybe still not hear it? Pretend you heard it, and nod your head and hope it's an appropriate response? Stab yourself in the eye with a pen to create a diversion, and change the subject? When you're walking past coworker, and you've already said hello earlier, everyone's making that weird flat smile. That walk down a long hallway toward each other where you've clearly seen the other person, but they are too far away to say something, so you do the awkward look around until you get close enough to say hey and keep walking. I work in an office above a warehouse and the hallway goes the length of the entire warehouse. It's like that never-ending hotel hallway in The Shining. There are departments all along the hallway, so people come out of doors from each end. It's the worst to start walking from one end and someone comes out from a door at the other, and I'm just praying inside they enter into another door before we get to each other. But it never happens. We always end up crossing paths, but until that point, I'm looking everywhere but at that person. Looking into other offices, pulling my phone out for no reason to look at it. The only savior is when you have a box or paperwork in your hands that you can focus on, and then when the other person is within 5 feet of you, say hey and keep walking. It's utter misery every time I have to go into the hallway, which is a lot. When you go for a hug, but the other person goes for a handshake, so you start with a handshake, but do a weird hug at the same time with your hands in each other's crotches. When you try to contribute to a conversation and someone cuts you off multiple times, and you patiently wait for your turn to speak, even though it already was, but by the time the air is clear, the subject has already changed, and what you were going to say is now irrelevant. I used to be a habitual cutter offer. When I was younger I wasn't trying to be rude, I was just excited for what I had to say. I've reformed that behavior now, but if I notice this happening to someone else, I'll make sure to call attention to the person trying to talk. What was that, John? Or something along those lines, to make sure everyone is heard. When you start to tell a story in a group, but in middle of sentence realize that no one is actually listening, and ever so slowly you get quiet and hope no one took notice. Edit. Wow, seems someone did take notice this time. I ask myself a few times what might be wrong with me BC of this, but I also could imagine I am not the only one this is happening. But I don't think that something is wrong with you. It s just all too often that people just don't think so much. I think people in general mean no harm. They maybe were in this moment just not as emphatic, or don't have the antenna in the everyday hustle and bustle to notice something that doesn't jump in the face with a neon sign. Figuratively speaking, or, as for this case, notice someone's contribution that is not bursting with self-confidence, or provides the perfect introduction, but perhaps acts rather a bit introverted. When they don't realize that you were getting quiet, at first you think good, nobody noticed, but seconds later you start to feel bad that nobody was really paying attention to you, not even hearing that you were making noises, and that feels awful. I'm not sure if everyone can relate to this, but one of the most awkward situation I've ever found myself in was being invited to meet my girlfriend's family, and over dinner her parents got into a massive fight. When you start a story and it gets interrupted a bunch of times, so that what was an amazing story with a kick-ass finish / punkline is instead just a waste of time now.
Thank you for watching only on Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment about the most interesting story. And hit the bell if you don't want to miss any videos. Until next time.